Welcome to CPG Vibes. No script, just chat. We talk all things food and beverage and so much more. Feel our vibe and search for CPG Vibes on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to give us a 5-star review. If you'd like to sponsor our show with your product or service or be a guest, email us at cpgvibes100@gmail.com. Now your hosts, me, Alex Bear with Genius Juice, and Wade Yeti. All right, welcome to episode 73 of CPG Vibes. Can you believe that, Wade? Already episode 73?
It's really hard to believe. I was just thinking to myself, and I know you're going to get into this, but if we don't get those Apple Podcast numbers up, we're going to surpass episodes before we get the rankings up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big cardinal sin right there. I mean, if we're threatening to maybe shut down the show if we catch up in episodes to the number of ratings, because that tells us we're not getting enough freaking ratings. So
That's right.
Yeah, good segue. Go on there, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your brother, tell your sister, tell your cousins, tell the person sitting next to you from second grade. Give us 5 stars. Super easy. Literally, we do this sometimes where we actually show you. But, you go on your Apple phone, which I know most of you have, right? Some people have Android. That's okay. I'll give you a pass. But you literally just go to the Apple Podcast, which is the purple. Click that. You go through, scroll through, and you find us. And you just go to the bottom. That's it. You go all the way to the bottom, and then you give it 5 stars. That took me, like 25 seconds to do?
Right.
It's easy. It's easy.
I also put the link in the chat. If some people, if they might have Apple Podcasts on their laptop or desktop computer, you can hit it that way as well. So whatever avenue you have, whatever's easiest for you, that's how you do it.
Cool. It looks like we're also back off the glitch train. It was kind of glitchy last week where, the StreamYard kind of screwed the pooch a little bit. We didn't have comments coming in. Now we do. It is back in full force. So we're really, really happy about that. Couple laundry list items. One of them we already went through, which is giving us 5 stars. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, we are officially booked out through the year. However, exceptions can be made since Wade and I are on the board of directors, and we are also the co-chairman of the board, co-CEOs, co-hosts, co-CFOs.
We know people.
And we know people, especially ourselves. So we can maybe slide you in depending on what's going on, what kind of guest you are. If you have some events coming up, you never know. We may slide you in early. Also, if you'd like to be a sponsor on our show, email cpgvibes100@gmail.com, and it's a $350 introductory, and you could be a sponsor. We got hundreds of people that are on here live. We got thousands that listen to each and every episode. Hyper focused, right? Which I love about this way. We always, targeting, right? Social media. Right. A lot of it's untargeted. This is targeted. These are CPG people that love CPG, breathe it, eat it, sleep it. So make sure if you'd like to get your brand out there, get some sales, get some awareness, you can become a sponsor, cpgvibes100@gmail.com. One last thing before we bring our guest on, he's patiently waiting in a Zen den over there, this is something really cool that we're going to be talking more about. I just wanted to drop it in here. We're going to be doing limited edition drops for custom-made boxes that you can put things inside. There might be a little something inside, a little gift when we send it out to you. And we're going to start selling these on our CPG Vibes website, cpgvibes.com. This is so new that Wade doesn't even know the details of this yet. It's like he's hearing about it first at the same time you guys are.
We've talked a little bit about it, but details we're still ironing out. But yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting.
So it's a gold foil box from Mars Packaging. It's my buddy Tyler Ball over there. You can find on LinkedIn. They're custom made. We're going to have drops of up to 100 of each being made, and we're going to sell through them on our website, and then they're going to be never made again. And we're going to make other ones for different seasons, different parts of the year, different logos. You can get your logo on here. So there's a lot of cool things coming up with building the CPG Vibes community. All right. So, anything else, Wade, before we hop in and bring our guest on?
I don't think so. Let's do this.
Okay. I do need to find really good music here, and I really like this. I'm gonna do this one. It's dance pop. I've never seen this guy dance. Maybe I don't want to, but let me play this. This is a good one. I like this one. It fits him. That's Sedona hippie-ish kind of vibe going on. All right, so we have Yuval Selik. There we go. Now it's getting going. Now you're here. Boom. All right, so he is the co-founder of Promo Mash, and he is also the founder and host of Seven Hats podcast. Are you doing some dance moves for us?
Why not? I need my glow stick.
It's more like rave.
I left my glow stick in the bedroom. I'm sorry.
This is like rave stuff here. Huh?
Yeah, all that's missing is the psychedelic mushrooms. Maybe that could be our sponsor.
I'm sure there's a CPG brand that's willing to sponsor some psychedelic mushroom, natural and organic, of course.
Of course, from the earth. It trips you out, but it's from the earth.
Yes.
So cool, man. How you doing?
Doing good. It's a Friday. I am in Sedona, beautiful place, right?
Awesome. We may be visiting Sedona next week on one of our stops. So I'll definitely, this is last minute planned. We're going to the Next Level Summit in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm a guest speaker there. And then on the way, it's not even on the way. It's like 2 hours out of our way, right? From Scottsdale to LA is like this. And then Sedona's north, I believe. So we may stop by, do some hiking, and I'll definitely hit you up if we're in
There's a
town.
golf course right here.
My wife would probably it's like, when you're like going to like nature and like hiking and like family time, and she's like, you're going to take this time to play golf, which you can do at home. She's going to get probably very, very mad at me. And I'm already using my golf credit for Palm Springs because we're stopping there first before we go to Scottsdale. And Scottsdale, I'm just scared to be out there golfing. Number one, my skin, I'll look like a lobster. I'll be baked. And then number two, it's like any kind of exercise in 110 degrees. I'm not going to be hitting them straight. I may not even be alive to hit the ball, by the end of the round. So
I'll tell you, last year, Sedona was miserable. It was like 100+ degrees.
Damn.
This year, we're having awesome weather because we're high up. We're like 4,500 feet above sea level. So
right.
What's happening in Scottsdale is about 15 degrees maybe hotter than what it is right now.
Got it. So that's good to know. I want to find out, because you used to live in Los Angeles,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you moved out, obvious reasons of moving out of LA. It's a big shift going to Sedona, but what led up to your move going to Sedona? When did you decide to do this? How hard was it to move everything out there? Tell us more about that decision.
So great question. So I moved from New York 22 years ago to LA, and I started a new life. I met my wife, her, Ala, and she's an actress. So we were bound and stuck in LA prior to COVID, right? Because she had her career and I had my career. Then I started Promo Mash. We started Luvala, my first CPG brand, which is why I'm a recovering CPG founder. And we went through that whole rigmarole. When Luvala failed and we were discontinued from a national distributed plan in outlets, I then started working at a bank. So I came back to my previous corporate job. And I was working there while building Promo Mash, and we were doing all these things together as a family, right? She was acting, I was doing the bank thing, and I was running Promo Mash with Chris, my co-founder. Then 2020 happened, and the whole world stopped. So acting was no longer required. You didn't have to stay in LA to act because everything was self-tape auditions. So at that point, things were getting really bad in LA with the taxes and the homeless problem and the politics and the crime and all of that, coupled with the fact that I quit my bank job on March 1st, 2020, which was not that smart, but I did that prior to knowing of COVID. And we just decided, look, it's a good time to head out of LA, go somewhere peaceful. I've lived in big cities all my life. I'm never looking back. It is such an awesome decision to move somewhere where it's quiet and it's a smaller town. Everything changed when we moved. It was really cool. And then Ala can just do self-tapes and still act and drive to LA. It's an 8-hour drive or 1.5 hour flight, and she can act. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And Promo Mash allows me to be remote. We were actually one of the first remote companies back then when everybody was like trying to tell us we needed an office. And I'm like, shit, no. I'm not going to spend money on furniture and buildings and all that. I was like, nope. So we've always had a remote team, and we just kind of adapted to COVID, which was nice.
So I was going to dive into that a little bit, Yuval. That's a good segue into, you mentioned Luvala and the failing aspect of that kind of led you onto the path to where you are now. So tell us about, briefly about Luvala and you don't have to get into the details as far as what happened, but what motivated you ultimately to start Promo Mash?
Well, I was a first-time founder back in 2006. And I was always a wantrepreneur. So I wanted to do a lot, and I never had the balls to get it done. So for many, many years, I was watching Tony Robbins and putting business plans together, and it was all really cool. And when the big .com hoopla was happening, I had the first idea for Yelp, and you have all these ideas, but nothing materialized. When I met my wife, we decided to start Luvala, and it wasn't actually the first initial company. It was a wellness center that actually turned into a skincare line because we were going to carry skincare in the wellness center, but we couldn't afford the wellness center. So we're like, shit, let's just create the skincare line first. And if we can make money on the skincare line, we'll get the wellness center going afterwards. So we started off, we were very green, and we didn't know anything about retail. I didn't even know what the hell CPG was, right? So we started, and we were doing really well. We had, 5 brokers across the country, regional brokers. We had a national sales director, and we were convinced. We raised $1.1 million, which we thought was a lot of money. And as you know, 4 months into it, I had like 600,000 left, and 2 months later, I had 200,000 now left. It was a different time, and we spent $60,000 on a website because back then we didn't have Wix. We had to literally code websites on Magento, and that was very, very expensive. So ultimately, we're getting this business off the ground. We got bad advice, as most young CPG founders get, because they don't have great mentors. And even if they think they have great mentors, they're not experienced enough to really help them in retail. So we got advice. We received advice that we should grow national as quickly as possible. And all of a sudden, we went from 0 to national, pretty much national Whole Foods, Sprouts, every natural chain you can imagine. Jimbo's, Mother's. I mean, we were everywhere. And that's when the fun started. And so ultimately, 3 or 4 years later, we went from thousands and thousands of stores nationwide with some of the best banners to 0 distribution, having to pivot online, okay, miserable. And at that time, that's when I hit my rock bottom. If anyone listens to my podcast, the first 2 shows is my life story. So I hit rock bottom around 2010, 11. I was sitting in the bathroom, with sucking my thumb on the floor in fetal position. I was in my bedroom crying hysterically with a book on my chest. It was an Eckhart Tolle book, A New Earth. And I asked myself a question. I'm like, why am I such a loser? Why did I fail? Why did I let everybody down? And I had a choice. Do I blame everybody around me? Because I could have. I could have blamed my partner who misled me and didn't really help out in the way that she should have, based on her experience. I was led down by the brokers and the distributors and the retailers because I, as a first-time founder, thought that everybody that I paid was on my side. And that was the first problem. And so at that time, I was sitting crying hysterically because I was about to lose my marriage. I lost my health because I was working 100+ hour weeks, right? I lost my spiritual, kind of the meditation, the spiritual side of my soul, which was very prevalent prior to starting the business. And I was in $1 million worth of debt. I had no cash, and I was forced to drive a limo just to support our family for $10 an hour. I walked into the limo company for the interview, and the CEO was like, "You just had a company. You were a CEO. Why would you want to drive a limo for $10 an hour?" And I said, "You know what? I'm doing it because I'm showing the universe. I'm showcasing to the universe that I'm willing to do whatever it takes, right, to succeed." And I knew that $10 an hour is not going to pay my bills, but it was kind of the gateway to get into that habit and not sit on the couch moping. And so instead of blaming everyone, what I did is I asked myself one question, and that question changed my life. That question was, what is it about me that created all of this in my life? And when I asked that question, I understood that I needed to spend more time on balancing my life rather than focusing on one aspect of my life. And it's not just business. You know this. If you only focus on health, your relationships and your business will deteriorate. If you only focus on your relationships, something else will deteriorate. And it's not a balancing. It's not. You can't balance your life, but it's a juggling act, because one week your business needs you 100 hours or more, and then another week maybe you got to spend time with your family, and another week maybe you got to really focus on your health. So you have to figure out a way. This is why I created the 7 hats, because it's the 7 aspects of your life that are critical for fulfillment. And so my problem was that when I created Yuval and launched it with my wife, and I spent all my time on focused 100+ hour weeks for so many years on building the company, trying to make it succeed, and whatever it took. And it was just grind like anybody else. You guys know, you're entrepreneurs. But when I got to a point where achievement no longer satisfied me and I burnt out, because I was looking for the accolades, I was looking for the dollars, I was looking for the financial rewards and the financial freedoms, and I had nothing, because I didn't find fulfillment, which is why there are many billionaires out there that are antidepressants that have no sense of worth. And that's a problem, I think, with us in general entrepreneurs. It's that mental health that everybody's speaking about on LinkedIn. We burn out because we think that there's a goal, that there's a destination that you have to achieve something, someone, somehow. It's not the case. It's a journey. Things happen. And Luvala, the failure of Luvala was the best thing that ever happened to me. So when I failed with Luvala and I went back to the bank, I understood that because the whole point of starting a business, Alex would know this, right? You start a business because you want to help others achieve some sort of goal, some sort of success. For Alex, it was, I'm going to create Genius Juice, little plug, there's my, right? It's to create a drink or to create a product to help others. But I created a product which was literally the best product on the market, best ingredients, best packaging, best every single buzzword you can imagine, and certification. I thought that was what's going to win at retail, right? Everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to want it. That's not the case. And so I learned a lot of things. And I think Alex can also vouch for that. Just because you're on the shelf, it doesn't mean crap. It just means you're on the shelf. That's kind of the beginning of it. And the only reason you're on the shelf is because it's a one-to-one relationship, right? I walk into your office and I say, hey, by the way, I got a great drink and you should try this and you should listen to me and here are the benefits and blah, 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 blah. And then Wade says, you know what? This is great. I'll bring you in. That's a one-on-one relationship. Now, once you're in, it's a one-to-many relationship. You can't sit there with every customer and say, hey, here are my ingredients and here's why you should buy me and not the other 50 products on the shelf that also are on TPR, right? and have every name and ingredient, on the package. So the key here is to understand what does it take to succeed? And so I went back and I started thinking about it, and I understood that I failed in 3 areas of my business. Are we good? Can I just interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep going. Yep.
So I failed in 3 areas of my business, and I think that's something that every single CPG founder should look at. Not the product, not the ingredients. Those are all great. But how do you run a business? How do you succeed as a business person? And in order to do that, you got to think about cash flow. You got to think about profitability, and you have to think about growth. Okay. So when we first created CP Genius as a marketing play before Expo West, it was because of our partnership with Crisp. Crisp is a data company, and they have POS and shipment data. They're incredible. And we have an exclusive partnership where we bring in that data into our platform, ProMesh, which we'll talk about in a second. And that allows you to analyze your promotion. But, little by little, I understood that CPG doesn't mean consumer packaged goods, and it doesn't mean Crisp plus ProMesh equals genius. It means cash flow plus profitability equals growth. That's what it means. It's in the letters, people, right? So now I wasn't managing my cash flow. You know why? Because I had a spreadsheet, and 5 of my brokers had a spreadsheet, and my national director had a spreadsheet, and every one of them had 15 tabs of all the key accounts, and none of the spreadsheets were talking to each other. So when we were building our plan and forecast, what do you think happened? Data leakage. I had no idea what I was spending my money on. I thought I did. So when you don't know what you're spending your money on, how the hell are you going to manage your cash flow?
Mhm.
Can't do that, right? So cash flow was huge, but I didn't have the tools. I mean, I had tools, but they weren't the right tools to understand what I'm really spending my money on. EDLPs and slotting fees and damage fees and, ads, TPRs, MCB, you get a million acronyms, right? So that's a big part, and that's one of the reasons I failed. Another reason that I failed, which is why Crisp and us are such a good partnership, is because, I had a plan. It was a bad plan, but I had a plan. I mean, I ordered $230,000 worth of inventory that I shouldn't have ordered because I thought I was going to grow to a certain standpoint, and it stopped in 2008. So guess what happened? I had $230,000 sitting there with an expiration date that I had to throw away. That's not wise business decisions when you have only a few $100,000 in the bank, right? Because I had minimums. It was out of the south of France. So now when you have all of these issues, let's say you even have a plan that's a bad plan. I couldn't analyze the plan. I couldn't say, well, I planned for X dollars of MCB. I planned for ads. I planned for EDLCs. I planned for certain things. What do I do with it? I couldn't verify what the lift was. If you can't verify what your lift is, your trade rate is all over the place. You don't know. So I didn't have the data or the ease of use of connecting the data to the spreadsheets to understand what's going on. So that's tip number 2 and why I failed. And the third, we've been speaking about this all the time. I think Alex knows this more than anyone else. Deductions. I was getting creamed. I had one GL fund because my accountant was doing the deductions and had no idea what a deduction is. You want to guess what that GL fund was? What the name was?
Tell us.
The cost of doing business. That was the name of the fund. So the reality is that if you don't have control of your cash flow and you don't have control of your profitability and you're trying to grow like we did from 0 to national, it's not a surprise. Ask Dr. Richardson, right? James Richardson. He'll tell you he could have called that a mile away. Because the reality is brands think that because they have a good product or because they got into Costco or because they got into, Whole Foods, that all of a sudden their problems are over and they're all good and they're just beginning their journey. So when I created ProMash, I knew that I wasn't able to give back to my shoppers, to my community, to people that I wanted to help live a natural, better life with great products and skincare and ingredients. I knew I couldn't do that anymore because I didn't have the option. But I could do that now with ProMash if I can find a way for them to manage their cash flow, profitability, and growth. I knew that if I was able to create a closed loop solution, because Steve Jobs was one of my heroes, and I was always wondering, like, iTunes was such a brilliant freaking decision on his part. Everybody was trying the fragmented, direction, and it wasn't working. So imagine if we can create a closed loop solution, an all-in-one for CPG, to not have the issues that I had with data leakages and missed information. So when I met Chris, my co-founder, he's probably listening, he should say hello. Our business plan literally had the Apple logo. The first page had the Apple logo and all of the different players, the distributors, the retailers, the brand ambassadors, the agencies, they're all there. And that was the beginning of ProMash back in 2012, when we were smoking cigars and drinking whiskey in his backyard. And we launched in 2015, and the rest is history. We launched with a field marketing platform, and then little by little, we had interest on trade. So then we built the trade platform and the deduction platform. We connected with Crisp. Shout out to Samantha Shend, who's here. Best partner ever, right? The first CPG for CPG Genius. And I have to say, we never look back. And we are literally, as far as I know, the only full closed loop solution for field marketing and merchandising, for trade planning and forecasting, for analysis of real-time data analysis, performance and profitability, and full deduction management services, meaning that we manage the deductions for you because we have the experts to do that, and tied back to your plan. So you have three things now. What do I think will happen? That's your forecast. What do I believe is going to happen? That's your actual sales. And what do I know happened? Those are your deductions. That's what you can do on ProMash. That is my life mission. That is Chris's mission. Everybody on our team, we wake up in the morning to help brands not go through what I went through. That's the story.
Great. That's a great story. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful story, and like beautiful, painful, yet a lot of learnings from that. And it's honestly hard to comment back on everything you just shared, because there's so much there and so much emotion and so many learnings and pain. But then you got through it all, and you learned from that, and you parlayed that into a program and system that can help others. Because being in Genius Juice now for 10 years, right? I remember we first met back in 2014. We met I think
that was fun. Let's tell that story for a second. So,
okay,
I believe we met in Santa Monica, right? Was that it? Or we met? That was the second meeting, I think.
Yeah, I think either we met at Expo West or it was the Green Festival at the LA Convention Center. It was one of those, but you have to maybe tell me exactly the first time we met.
It's a little fuzzy, but I remember meeting you, and you were just this bushy, like you were just ready to go. And I remember the energy that you were putting forth, and it was really magnifying. And so for me, we instantly made a connection back then. And I remember we went to a kind of an investor meat market, or kind of like one of those.
Oh, no, now I remember where I met you. Yeah, it was in Santa Monica. This is where now it's coming clear. It was like an investor event, more for like tech companies. It was like Founder Meet Funder, and it was on
Founder Meet Founder. That's exactly
it. And it was on the rooftop, and it was 2014.
Yes,
that's where I met you.
Yep. Yes, and I remember hearing your story, and it was just, that's when we started, ProMash, and it was just two young entrepreneurs without really knowing what's ahead of them in terms of the journey. And look at all these years later, we're still friends, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing, man. And like, that's what this is all about: relationships, helping each other. And yeah, I'm so blessed to have gotten to know you and still know you and be friends, and like sharing your story today. I mean, you know, teared up a little bit when you were talking about the Lavala story about the going national, right? And then the discontinuation, the money lost, mistakes made, because I think every entrepreneur at some point in their career can really identify wholeheartedly, emotionally identify with and have, you know, post-traumatic stress on what you went through. And to me, like, you know, when I first started, it was like, so, you know, I'm still excited to this day. I'm still pumped, but in a different way. I'm pumped to get the company to be profitable. I'm pumped that I've learned so much in the last 10 years on how to run a company or not run a company. And I think the key issue a lot of entrepreneurs have that we both had when I started Genius and you started Lavala is you're so excited around the product, about the mission, about the ingredients. Everyone's going to fucking buy this. It's so different. And like you have a dream. Your dream is let's get this on the shelf. It's going to shine. People are going to buy it. I'm going to scale. I'm going to raise a Series A for $4 million. And in the last 8 months, for most entrepreneurs, 95% or more, that dream is dead to me, to be dramatic, because that's not how it works. And you think you can buy your way and raise your way to having a successful brand. It's about operating your way to a successful brand and making smart decisions and not being held, you know, too much by an investor or someone else with a vested interest that is pushing you to move too fast and make decisions that are too quick and rash. And so, like, man, if I had to do it over again, right? So many different ways I would have run this business, right? And we're still in business. We survive. We're surviving. It's hard, but like to me, that's what hits me most emotionally. Is most founders and CPG founders have no idea what's coming until it hits them and sideswipes them. And you know what? Unfortunately, the sad thing is it sometimes only takes one traumatic event to end your company, right? You make one mistake, it costs you hundreds of thousands of dollars and you're out of business. So like knowing going in is the biggest battle. And like you said, sometimes you get bad advice too. So it's a battle to be in this business, and you got to have the right people around you, and you have to have the right mindset and how to operate a business.
Yeah. A few things. I will say that I look at it as climbing Mount Everest, because CPG is like climbing Mount Everest. If you don't have a Sherpa by your side, somebody who really knows and that can navigate the direction, you're going to fall through a crack and die a miserable death. Okay. Because 90% of companies fail. But people ask me all the time, what would you do differently if you had to do it over again? And I will say, and I would say the following. Number one, unless you raise multi-millions of dollars, okay, take where you live, draw a circle around like 100-mile radius, and yourself, without brokers, go in and get into every independent store that you can get into, or a chain of less than 5. Okay, like a Jimbo's would have been perfect. Mother's, perfect. Okay, and hire your slave labor, your family, your friends, buy them pizza, whatever you need to do, right? And demo 4 times a day, every single day for literally 2 years, probably. Because what you're trying to do is build velocity and experience and understand your customers so well and the repurchase rate so well, so that your product and your market and the funds that you have around you, you have to be profitable with where you are before moving on to another 100 locations. Because if you're unprofitable with 100, you're going to be way less profitable with 500. So I get this all the time when I speak with brands and I consult with brands. They come to me and they say, I'm getting into Sprouts. I say, fantastic. How much money do you have in the bank? $50,000. I say, congratulations. You know, you'll have to find a job sometime very soon, because they will discontinue you. It's not that they don't care. It's not that the buyers don't care about you. I think when they first, and I think, Wade, you can speak to this, right? When you first connect with a brand, our founder, you want their success. Like, you believe in the product, you want their success, but you have a job. You're going to get fired if every square inch of that shelf isn't producing the most that it can produce. So it's not like buyers are bad people. They have a job, and they have specifically believe in you to bring in the marketing dollars or the ability to sell your product so they can look good in front of their boss. And when you can't do that because you're in 500 stores and you have $50,000 and you can't do a damn demo or a TPR, then nobody knows you, because the reality is on the shelf, this was the biggest mistake that I really made, is that I thought by having my product on the shelf on an end cap or a certain place, that people are going to notice it. And if I have organic and certified, natural and local and whatever it is, that they're just going to pick it up like they did, RX bar, the 1 in a billion, product that the label did something. But for the most part, shoppers don't give a shit. They'll walk around, they see 100 products, very similar. They don't know who you are, what you did. They didn't have a conversation with you. And if there's no demo in front of them, and if there's no somewhat of an ad or something that takes you away from the red ocean that's in front of you, they're just going to look for the cheapest price. We literally had the best organic product in Whole Foods, and they were buying, cheap $5 eye cream because they thought, well, if it's on Whole Foods, it's good. No, it's not. And that's the problem, is that founders go in thinking that certain parameters or certain aspects of their marketing or business strategy will get them to be successful. But no, small, regional, local area, demo the shit out of it, get your velocity up, understand your customer base, take in all the data, and then take that to the next region and then to the next region. It might take you 5 to 7 or 10 years to become somewhat successful. You know what? Shit, that's the reality of business. I don't know many businesses that get successful before 7 or 10 years. That's the reality. And everybody thinks that just because they see Beyond Meat go IPO in 4 years, because all of a sudden something happens. I always tell people that's your 0.00000001 chance of success in that scale, and rounded, it's 0. So don't bet on that. Bet on the traditional grind that you have to put forth as an entrepreneur to really get your business in order. And again, cash flow in any business. I don't care about CPG, any business. Cash flow, profitability. Before growth, cash flow and profitability. Then you can grow. But if you try to grow without cash flow and profitability taken care of, you're going to die. And that's every business. And that was my lesson.
Yep. And I think like a lot of brands are growing. And again, this is the model. There's been a bull run, right? In the CPG, space, a lot of money raised, millions of dollars. I've seen brands raise, $10 million Series A, and then they disappear, in 2 years, they blow all the money. So, growth has been prioritized over profitability and cash flow, right? And I want to turn it to Wade in a sec here, but like that's the main landmine that all these brand owners are hitting is I need to grow. I need to grow. I need to get this account. I need to get this account. And so setting up your business and foundation and your partners and investors in the right way, like going back to the Sherpa, right? And when you're climbing that mountain, get the advisors that are like, you don't have to be in fucking Target 1,800 stores this year, even if they offer that to you.
Correct.
Because you're not going to make money. You're going to spend all this money. And once you're out, you're out. You can never get back in. You could have a great brand in 4 years that could do well in Target, but if they already gave you a chance, it's very unlikely they're going to give you a second chance. So a lot, this is where patience and not so much diligence, but there's a word for it, but basically just controlling the urge to grow and really getting your foundation set just to make sure you have a solid business. And so you said it so well yourself, Yuval. I wanted to, Wade, I want to turn it to you because you've been mostly listening to this conversation between two founders that are reminiscing and commiserating on how challenging this business is, especially in these times. So partnering up with brands, right? What Yuval was talking about, partnering up with brands, what's on your mind, and, especially in the Jimbo's days, to make sure that a brand will succeed? And like, how far can a buyer go before they're just like, I gave it my all, I need to move on to the next brand, I need to go to my next review. Like, what's the balancing act where you're taking care of a brand, but you also need to move on and you have a job to do to get maximum velocity per square foot? Like, how do you balance those two things as a buyer in your history?
Well, I was going to say, before I go there, I was going to back up a little bit and just
Sure.
kind of go in the time machine and just remember that before I was in the grocery business, I was somewhat of an entrepreneur myself, right? I had my own restaurant that failed miserably, that led me on the path to where I am today. Had I not fell flat on my face, quite honestly, went bankrupt and went through a lot of personal issues, as a result of that whole experience. But that's why that event, that failure, was a catalyst to put me on the road to where I am today. So a lot of times, I think people forget that when they think about me and what I've done over the last 15 or 20 years, but the 10 years before that were just as important, because I have that experience of starting up with not enough money and spending money on marketing and all these things in my restaurant. So, but I wanted to preface that first, and just because as much as I'm listening with my current hat on, I'm also, this is kind of triggering like PTSD, right? I mean, it's like, I vividly remember, not having money and signing my name to checks and sitting in the back with an adding machine and seeing if I was going to meet payroll and all those things. But I think it really just depends. I think, you referenced Jimbo's, and obviously that's kind of a one of a kind retailer with their setup. But I think the leeway in an account like that is your grace period, if you will, is probably a little longer than some of the larger groups that you mentioned at, Whole Foods and Sprouts and, some of those other larger accounts. When you think about the pressure on a buyer to make sure their categories are performing, right? I mean, and I think if I was listening to Yuval talk about, growing locally, which we've talked about on the show, and it's kind of my blueprint to anybody trying to grow a brand is to grow, crawl, walk, run in your backyard, own it, and then just go out regionally. But if you're in one of those big boys, right, and whether the shelf's empty because you've got too big too fast and you can't produce product fast enough, or you don't have the money to produce it fast enough, or what have you, those people are under a lot of scrutiny, right? As far as the larger an organization gets, the more people that are looking at that business performance, right? I mean, if you're a 4-store chain, you've got your layers of personnel and whatnot. But when you get up to 100, 200, and so on, you've got layer upon layer upon layer. You got the store personnel looking at it. You got the regional people looking at it. You got the corporate people with all their different umbrellas looking at it. I think that's where you have to really consider where you're going, how fast you're going, and if you want to go. But your question, Alex, was as far as that was it, right? As far as success goes, what do I as a buyer look for, or when do I pull the rug and say enough's enough? Is that ultimately what we're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I know that every retailer is different depending on the size, the structure, who is above the buyer, right? Like looking down, okay, like, how much time do you give a brand? Right. And I've seen retailers handle it differently, where they make a connection, there's a relationship formed, they present it to you, you bring the product in, and like balancing, supporting that brand, but also making the hard business decision of having to discontinue them. Like it's a brand that you really believe in. Like this could do well, but for some reason it's not doing well. How far do you go, and should a buyer go before they're like, I got to pull the rug out. I got to move on to another brand and fill that slot that the velocity is going to be better and ultimately make more money for the retailer. So it's a balancing act.
Right.
And I've seen buyers handle it very differently.
I think a lot of it kind of depends on, the product. Is it perishable, and what's happening? Is it not selling? If it's perishable product, is it being shrunk out from not selling, right? Are you throwing it out and ultimately costing yourself money? It's one thing to sit on the shelf, not turn, and just be there and take up real estate. It's another, excuse me, to be perishable, and then you throw it away, and then you order more in and you throw it away. It's not selling that way. So I think a little bit depends on the category you're in. But for me, I mean, in a perfect world, you want to give somebody 6 months to a year. But and then I'll also look at the brand or the person I'm dealing with themselves, and what have they done? Did they get it on the shelf and walk away and expect it to just go there? You kind of reference that. If they're throwing TPRs at it, if they're trying to do some kind of demo, if they're passing out coupons or neck hangers or something like that, and they're doing everything they can, and I see that and I know that, then I'm probably going to give them a little bit more latitude than if, okay, you got it on the shelf and I never hear from you again. I'm not going to have a lot of sympathy for someone that operates with that kind of mentality where, okay, I'm on the shelf, now it's your job to sell it, right? It's our job to sell. And so exactly. I think, the more effort you put in, the more, in my opinion, willing your partner is going to be to give you a little bit of a grace period. But at the end of the day, cash talks, right? And if that 6 months, whatever it is, comes up and it's not moving, and you've done those things, at some point you've got to move on, right? And we've talked about that recently as well, Alex.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention, and Yuval, I know you have a thought there, is I want to bring up a really great case study that really reinforces what you're talking about in this gospel of, getting in the right stores, doing demos, having really great relationships with the owner where like they're just putting your stuff right there. Like you go in front row center, it's going to sell. The owners, the cashiers, everyone's crazy for it. It's the brand that when we last met up all three of us last met up in person at Expo West at the bowling event.
Yes.
And there was Backpack Brands. This was sponsored by Startup CPG plug. And they had one brand there called Nowhere Bakery.
Man.
And number one, it's a fantastic product. I mean, that's number one, right? And we all it was on like toothpicks. I'm like fuck the toothpicks. Give me the whole package. I can't just eat a little bite of that. It's like addictive, but it's also really good. And their whole premise is this that was created, the founder, there's Maurizio and then Safira, I believe his wife. And they basically, she had a lot of allergies and things. So they created a dessert that's decadent without all the gluten and all that. And it has almond butter, it has chocolate, it has, it's really good. And they have they have cookies, they have brownies, all that stuff. So, I started seeing them more and more in Orange County because they make their product in Orange County in Costa Mesa. And when I went to these stores, coffee shops, independents, I noticed how much this stuff was selling. And I could tell they were there for demos. I could tell the entire staff loves them and loves their product. And also, these are places that have no chargebacks whatsoever. Not a single chargeback. They drop it off. They get paid on their phone, credit card, whatever, bank draft. They charge them right there on their phone and they drop it off. And so I'll just say this, right? Because I've spoken with the owners and they've shared information with me about how their business is doing. I won't divulge any of that. But I will say the amount of velocity and sales they have for being in under 100 stores in one 5 to 10 square mile area is insane. And it made me reevaluate how to run a CPG business after talking with them. Yeah. And these are relatively new founders. I mean, they have previous experiences, right, that led them to this path here, right? Just like everything in our past led us to here. But they are doing it in such a smart way, self-manufacturing, great quality, great velocity, profit. So that's a great case study I wanted to point out.
Yeah. I would say that one of the best things we've done that I remember clearly that helped us tremendously in the early days, especially during the growth state before we made all these mistakes. My wife and I drove to every store that we can get to. And we were going across states. So we were in SoCal, so we went to the Sprouts in El Cajon and in Arizona, and we were just traveling as much as we could travel. And we were meeting with the buyers and the team, not doing necessarily so many demos, but meeting with the buyers and the team, scheduling training calls with them in a conference room. I don't know if they're still doing that, but they were allowing us to do that. We trained the team on the ingredients and the products. So we did that one-to-one. We had that one-to-one conversation like you would with a buyer, but with the entire team. And then we gave them samples. And so what happened was, then if we've done demos at the store level and we left, guess who was doing demos for us when we weren't there?
24/7.
24/7. And every time we did that, it was total success. And so think about this. That's why you can't grow nationally unless you can afford to do that nationally, because that's what it takes. You can't be in the store 24/7. And if you do one demo a week, you're still missing the other 6 days of customers that are coming in that are not coming in on Monday, right? Not everybody comes in on Monday. It's different schedules, different times. So literally a demo of 3-4 hours, you're getting a very small percentage of the people that get into the store in the first place. But guess what they're doing? Hey, can you recommend a skincare for my, dry eczema? Can you recommend a natural smoothie for me? There's 5 of them. Which one would you recommend? That's how you get velocity, but it takes time. Unless you have millions of dollars and you can send a whole bunch of people right out in the field to do the job for you and tell your story the way you can tell your story. Because Alex, nobody's going to tell the story like a brand founder. No one.
Exactly.
So you're already, even if you hire great brand ambassadors, you're already down from the way that you present it. So then if you don't do anything, why should they pick you? I mean, I don't pick up everything off the shelf. So that's the thing. That was one of my main key takeaways. And I remember that clearly on how effective that exercise was. It was hard and tedious and a lot of effort. And I mean, my wife was yelling at me over and over and over again on how I need to tell my story better. And how, part of the whole point of growing and learning as a first-time founder are those moments where you don't know how to tell a story, where you don't know how to convey your message, when you can't connect all the dots together. And having a support system, which again, part of the 7 hats, relationship with others and relationship with yourself, but relationship with others specifically for an entrepreneur is so critical, because you need someone that has your back. You need someone who's going to say, you know what, Yuval, you fucked up. Your story sucked today. Let's work on the story. Next time when we go there, let's get a better story going. And to hold you accountable, they don't just say yes to you. You stay away from yes people, right? You want people that are going to be like, my co-founder, I'm going to say his last name, Chris Ambarian. He never was a yes man. Since day one, he called my bullshit, and I call his bullshit. That's why we have a successful company, because we surround ourselves with the culture of ProMesh. We surround ourselves with those that have an opinion, those that are smart, and hopefully smarter than I am and Chris, and then allow us the ability to grow as individuals. Because if you're a CEO and you're not growing, you're not really a CEO. I mean, I can get a business card and I can open a company for, whatever, $100 or whatever it is, put a CEO title. It's not a CEO. Titles mean shit. You're a CEO when you're leading others and others are following you, not because you pay them, but because they believe you're going to take them to the promised land. Any CEO with a title or a VP with a title, you work at a bank, every damn person is a VP. It means nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's your actions and your day-to-day and all of the attributes that you bring to the table and the leadership qualities that you have. That's what makes a difference in running a company. So anyway, these are some of the lessons that I've learned.
Absolutely. So this has flown by. I mean, Wade, I don't know about you, but this has been probably the quickest episode we've ever had, honestly. This has felt like 12 minutes, not an hour. So it's amazing to hear the gems, everything that Yuval is sharing, the chemistry, And this is amazing. I'm glad that this is being recorded, right? It's always good.
Absolutely.
So
I will say before you continue,
sure.
I interviewed Alex on the 7 Hats.
That was such a fun interview. I love that.
I will come to your house if you don't do this. I need you to do 2 things. This is an absolute demand from me. Okay. Number 1, go give them 5 stars. I want to see 100 reviews by next week. I already gave a 5-star review. I want 100 5-star reviews by next week, people. And number 2, for CPG Vibes. And I want everybody to listen to Alex's podcast episode, the7hats.com, the number 7 hats.com, because his story is raw and honest and beautiful. And it was literally one of my favorite episodes. And I've interviewed some of the, more famous, just like we're in the circle with Mike Fata and, the others. I really want to honor you because you just have such a story of grit and determination and vulnerability. You just go out there and you don't quit. And that's what it takes to be a founder. Founder, that word, that term and that title and label shouldn't be taken lightly because there's a lot that goes in there, a lot of hard nights, crying, missed opportunities and sleepless nights. So you hold that title as better than almost anyone that I've seen. And I honor you for that.
Oh, Yuval, love you, brother. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I was pouring out my soul in that episode, and the credit also, I'll absorb and take a lot of that credit for sure. And everything you said, and all these kind words. Your interview style also allowed me to really share a big part of my past, the vulnerability. You offered a platform for me to really open up on your show. So right back at you, my brother. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to our next segment here. And this is going to be stuff we love. And we're going to talk about what we love. So we love a lot of things. But let's go into what products we love. And Wade, I'm going to start with you. Then we'll go to Yuval, and then I'll go last.
All right, I'll do a quick one here. I got a surprise box from an acquaintance in Ohio that I did business with many years ago. And he sent me an assortment of Mi Nina chips, tortilla chips. And I've got, this one's spicy chipotle lime, which I actually haven't tried yet, but organic ingredients. There's I think a jalapeno agave, there's a sea salt, there's a cinnamon churro one that I'm really excited to try. And I forget I'm missing one of them, but So my good friend who I haven't talked to in years, Tom Shear, reached out to me, and thanks, Tom. And I'm looking forward to trying the rest of these. That's what I got.
It's a big bag.
It is. Right, they're delicious.
Crush that over the weekend.
Probably.
All right, Yuval.
So I'm offering CP Genius shirts. So we can give 1 or 2 away depending on if we have time. Become a cash flow, profitability, and growth genius, or come on board and have a crisp plus pro mesh equals genius or growth experience with us. But it's a cool t-shirt. It went over well and during Expo, so I'm happy to throw 2 into the ring.
Awesome. Yeah, I got one of those shirts. I got to say I might be a little bit partial to it for obvious reasons, but it's a great shirt. I love it. Anyone in the CPG space, I think every fucking event that's CPG related, whether it's Natural LA or Boulder or Expo, Fancy Food, this shirt has to be everywhere. Just that's where I want to see it. So like, can people buy this shirt anywhere?
Not yet. Maybe one day.
Okay.
Right now you have to earn it.
You have to earn it.
Yes.
That's even harder. Yeah. Money can't buy it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to have 2 different products. It's Dr. Bronner's coconut oil. I cook with this all the time. It just makes everything taste better. You can even spoon it, directly. And then the one brand, right, that has a lot of money and grows, which is Olipop. The reason they're like doing a whole fuck you to soda, which I really like. Like they started really small. What I love about their story is the two founders started another brand before it called Obi, which is they got that from probiotic, the OBI and probiotic. And I remember seeing it in the stores in a glass bottle. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I bought the root beer and like, it's really good. And then they failed. Probiotic soda, they failed. But instead of just folding it up and going into real estate or something like that, they went right back into the industry after I think 5 years, Yuval, or 6 years of trying it and putting in all this money. And they just changed up the format to a great package. They raised a lot of money, obviously, but they did it slow. The first 2-3 years, they were just focusing on Erewhon and local stores. And then in year 4, in 2019, 2020, that just went.
Yep.
And now they're approaching 200. I met Ben Goodwin last year at the Next Level Summits, where we're going to be in Scottsdale. So make sure to talk to Store Press about that if you'd like to be at this year's. See the guest speakers, see me speak. Met Ben Goodwin last year. So humble, so nice, so knowledgeable. He's like a scientist. He's like a genius in his own respect. And last year he's like, we're going to do 100 million this year. He didn't say it like that. He's like, we're going to do 100 million. That's what's going on. This year they're going to do 200 million. So Coke and Pepsi want to buy them. They're like, no, we want to keep growing it our way and keep it high quality, keep it what it is and not corrupt it. And I just love what they're doing. I love how a small brand for 4 years, 3 years just blew up, and here they are today. So, and it's a great product. I like the product a lot. So that is stuff we love. And now we're going to get into our next segment, which is called Friday Freebies.
Friday Freebies.
Okay, so as Yuval mentioned, we're going to have 2 different prizes. One is going to be our premier sponsor, and we also need to talk about our long-term sponsor, V-Driven, as well. But we have 2 different prizes. We have Bologna's, which is the best flatbread ever. It's the best. It's so amazing. And I met this guy, talk about hustle and grind. We've talked about him a lot on this show. This guy is the biggest heart. He demos the living crap out of his brand. They have 55 farmers markets, events every single week. They have a big team, their family, their ambassadors. And so this guy is just all heart, Bilal Sadiq, and they're sponsoring with Bologna's. And then the second sponsor is ours truly, Yuval, and you're giving away 2 shirts, right?
Whatever you want to give away, it's fine.
Okay, you got it. All right, so we're going to have 2 different questions. First person to answer the question will win, and you can pick whether you want Bologna's or whether you want like a t-shirt and hat or a couple t-shirts from for CP Genius, and that's from Promo Mash from Yuval.
Yes.
So Yuval, we want to give you the honors. Do you want to ask the first question something hard, something cryptic that you mentioned somewhere in this episode?
Oh man. I don't know if this is too generic. You tell me. What is my number one advice for startup brands getting into retail? Is that too generic?
I mean, is the answer don't go to retail?
No.
Or
do you think we should go more specific?
Maybe a little, maybe we can dig in a little more, like a specific thing you said or advice.
I was going to say, think about it for a minute, Yuval, and I'll read the Bologna.
I have one.
You got one? Okay.
CP Genius, and the term CPG stands for 2 things. Name one of the 2 acronyms for that.
I'm going to step in and say name both to make it a little
name
harder.
both.
Yeah. All right. I'll read this plug real quick, Alex, so
sure.
we can do this. So as Alex mentioned, we're giving away the award-winning flatbreads and sauces from Bologna and Bilal and his mother, his brothers, just a family business doing great things. They're the original field flatbread, handcrafted, plant-based, vegan, and non-GMO. They're created from their founder's great-grandmother's recipes. So when we say family, it truly is a family business. From farmer's market to your supermarket, bologna's a low-calorie, always delicious snack or meal everyone can enjoy. And they're giving away, this is no joke, a $200 bologna prize package that has both the flatbreads and their sauces. Their sauces are fantastic. The flatbreads are and we're not saying that because they're plugging them. I'm actually out right now. I ate all that he sent me recently, so I have to go get some more. But just fantastic products. And as Alex mentioned, a heart of gold that Bilal has. And you just love to see people like that win, and they certainly are winning. So that's the Bologna Prize.
I swear, I go to shows, and you know how difficult shows are after 20 years of going to Expo or whatever, how many years, maybe it's actually not 20. It was probably about 12 shows. I literally go to shows to hug Bilal. Like
he should charge for those.
I am telling you, that hug of his, and then you take a sample and a couple. I don't take one sample, I take many samples, but that's what's worth the show. He is that good of a human being. I can't emphasize that enough. Incredible human being.
Yeah, he definitely lights up any room that he's in and brings a smile to your face. And it's like you're going to some, when you go to his booth, it's like you're going to an Italian restaurant that's been in your neighborhood for 50 years, and they just welcome you. And, hey, how you doing? Here's some great food. And like, it's cool that his brother's there and his mom's there at the booth too. I love that effect.
The whole family. Yep.
So, and then I know we have an answer here. It looks like Hank Watt got it, right?
So Hank got the first one, regional, local only. So you can give him a shirt.
Cool. All right. So we'll give, so Hank, you'll get the shirt and hat or 2 shirts or whatever you want. Email whatever combination makes sense to you. And cpgvibes100@gmail.com, and we will connect you with Yuval to get that prize. And then before we ask the second question, Wade, I forgot to talk about V-Driven as well, our premier sponsor. So V-Driven is a CPG partner for emerging purpose-driven brands. They fuel growth and innovation by providing strategies and support in every phase of the retail journey. They do trade spend deduction management, which, as you've all said, is very important. Promo Mash also helps with trade spend deduction management. And so they have a leadership team. They have incredible relationships with buyers. If you want to scale your brand, get in front of buyers, present your item. And what I like about V-Driven too is they're not, at least what I experienced, they're not yes men like we were talking about. Like if it's not the right account, they'll tell you it's not the right account. And they work off of, not only just getting commission, but they work off relationships and making sure you stay in business and that you're going into the right retailers. So they want you to make the right decision. So they're very hands-on. Luke Abbott, if you want to email him, luke.abbott, ABBOTT, @vdriven.com. There it is. And Wade posted it. I have the second question, Wade, if you don't mind me.
No, please do.
Jumping in. And this ties into Yuval and his recommendations on going to the stores, talking with the staff, making sure they're just hyped up on your brand and pitching the customers on it. Yuval mentioned going to a certain store. This is the latter part of the interview where he talked to the staff, and it was a certain store, a name, it's a chain, and a city. Where did he go? What store and what city to talk with the staff about Lavala? I think that's hitting the sweet spot. It's like pretty hard, but if people are paying attention, they should get it.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Because this is the $200 Bolanis. I mean, it's got to be difficult.
That's right.
The box won't even fit through your door when it's delivered.
You'll need help lifting it.
Yeah.
And I can't participate. Is that those the rules?
I've asked myself that same question every time. So I think Chris is a little too close to the vest, right? Yeah. He knows you, so he may know the story. He's heard it. So Chris, you're DQ'd. But I'm sure that Yuval will send you a T-shirt. All right, so we got the store name, but where was it? What city? Right now, you've won the $100 of the $200 of Bellani's. It's a certain city in California, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a Spanish name.
Yeah, I was about to say it's got a Spanish sounding name.
It's a hard question. We lifted the bar here. All right. So if no one answers the city, then I guess Dima is the default winner, right? He's the closest. But we'll give another 30 seconds. Should we give another clue on part of the name of the city? Because there's 2 words, right?
Yeah, it's 2 words. Should we give the first one? The first word?
Yeah, it's pretty generic.
Yeah. So the first word is L. E-L.
Chris is like, come on, man, let me play.
Yeah, right.
I never heard the story before. It's an executive decision. All 3 of us would need to approve that. San. Okay, it's
no. L. E-L.
L.
Not San. E-L.
Rio. It starts with L.
If you add es to the next word, it sounds like oh no,
El Segundo. It's not El Segundo.
No.
Good guess though. It's a little further than El Segundo, right? What area of the state is it in?
I think it's the inland area, isn't it?
Yeah, like Inland Empire, El Cerrito.
Nope, close. Nope. I think we should give it. I think we should give it to Dima. What do you think?
Okay. All right. And the answer was
Cojones. I mean,
cojones. You need cojones to run a business. Well, not necessarily. Not everyone has cojones.
El Cajones.
Yeah, that's near San Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
El Cajon.
I remember trying to demo a $65 eye cream in the Sprouts at El Cajon in El Cajon, and it was a challenge. So
yeah, I remember doing that, and there's so many we can relate to. At Costco, I went to McKinney, Texas, flew out there, and the buyer put us in the McKinney, where I was just seeing everyone buy meat and barbecue sauce, just that kind of rural area in Texas, demoing organic coconut smoothies. And there wasn't even coconut water. There wasn't even Harmless Harvest in the store for coconut water. And they're everywhere in Costco. So I'm like, this is going to be really hard. Cool. All right. So make sure to email CPG, still answers coming in. CPGvibes100@gmail.com. What do you guys got going on this weekend before we end the show? Yuval, I'll start with you.
What else? I'm working. What else can I do? I'm going to try to get in a good hike because it's really beautiful outside now. So outdoors, and I think that a nice hike will get my mind in the right order. And I want to again plug. Thank
you. It's picturesque, right?
And also for Wade, we don't know each other a long time, but you've just been a stand-up guy, and just awesome to meet you.
You as well. Thank you.
I think we'll have a long-lasting friendship. So thank you for what you do with Alex, and keep on the good work with helping CPG brands, because they need it. Believe me.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Great to meet you as well. So I'm planning on mowing as I look outside. It's been raining here all week. My grass is atrocious. So just laying low. No plans. Just laying low.
I have some work for you if you want to come and partake.
Well, we'll talk about what the pay looks like, and then we'll converse.
What kind of grass are we talking about here? I got some grass. So Sedona, right? So yeah, for me, just spending time with family. Gonna golf early tomorrow morning, very, very early in Long Beach, if there's a tee time open, because it's golf fever here because of the US Open last week. And then Sunday we're heading out to Palm Springs and then to Scottsdale So, and then again, if we're in Sedona, I'll hit you up, brother.
You do.
Sure.
Please. Absolutely.
Okay, so this has been episode 73, and next week, just going to pull this up, Wade. We have episode 74. I'm stalling, right, so I can look it up. And in episode 74, we're going to have, it looks like we got Sandro Rocco with Sanzo. So he's going to be here. The man from New York that started his brand in his apartment somewhere in Brooklyn, or not even sure where, but he started it, and now they're scaling and doing really well. And it's going to be sponsored by Sweet Prairie Haskip, which we'll explain next week what that is. And then the week after, though, I got to say this, in early July, we're going to have Meta World Peace on here. So it's the first NBA champion, I think first athlete we've ever had on CPG Vibes.
Wow.
So that's going to be really cool. And I'll be sponsored by Mars Packaging. So some good shows coming up. Yuval, love you, brother. Thanks for sharing your story,
Thanks
man.
again.
And Wade, thank you for also everything, being a true friend and a great co-host.
Thank you both. Take care.
Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
We'll see you next week, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Take care, everyone.